Disney's Moana, Chapter 4. Whack! Moana threw a coconut in the air and hit it hard with a large oar she had found by the fisherman's boat. Smack! Her anger had not subsided one bit. Not when she had freed herself from her constricting formal dress and placed it, along with the chief's headdress, in her fallet. Not when she had run through the village. Pooh trailing behind her, his little legs working hard to keep up. Not even when they had made it to the shore, the breathtaking view of the sea spreading out in front of them. Whack! At least you didn't say it in front of the village, standing on a boat. Moana whirled around to see her mother walking toward her. Sina gave her daughter a patient smile as she approached. Moana picked up another coconut and sent it sailing. I didn't say go beyond the reef because I wanted to be on the ocean, Moana cried. Yes, but... Sina reached out and lightly touched her daughter's arm before she could pick up another coconut. You still do. She gestured toward the oar in Moana's hand. Moana eyed it guiltily, then turned to stare at the ocean. The waves furiously pounded the sand as if mirroring Moana's mood. Now it was Sina's turn to sigh. He's hard on you because he doesn't get me, Moana finished for her. No, Sina shook her head. Because he was you. Drawn to the water. He took a boat, Moana. He crossed the reef. What? Moana looked up at her mother in shock. She had never heard this story before. Sina nodded. And he found an unforgiving sea. Waves like mountains. She paused for so long, Moana wondered if that was the end of the tale. But then her mother spoke again, softly. His brother begged to go out with him, but no matter how hard your father tried. Moana's mother paused again, the silence weighing heavily between them. Moana's eyes widened in amazement, a mixture of emotions flooding through her. She had known she had an uncle who passed away when her father was younger, but she'd had no idea how. Now she could picture the scene in her mind. Her father and his brother out in the water, tumultuous waves taking them by surprise, her uncle not making it back to shore. She felt numb with shock at the life her father had once had before her, sadness for his grief. She couldn't imagine losing someone important to her. Moana looked over to the village and saw Tui in the distance, speaking to some villagers. She saw a pain in her father that she hadn't seen before, in the way he moved slowly, thoughtfully, the burden of responsibility a weight hovering over him. My daughter, Sina spoke again, pushing back a piece of hair that had fallen in front of Moana's eye. Sometimes who we wish we were, what we wish we could do, it's just not meant to be. Moana suddenly felt very small. She turned to look at her mother, the woman who had always comforted her when she scraped her knee, when she lost her way. If you were me, what would you do? Sina pulled her into a tight embrace. We must make our own choices, my love. No matter how hard they may be, she said. Then, giving her daughter another wistful smile, Sina left Moana alone. The midday sun was sinking lower in the sky, its brilliant rays reflecting off the water. Moana hadn't left her spot on the beach, her mind still swimming with all she had learned. It was strange picturing her father out on the water. Why hadn't he told her about that part of his life? Or that he had once held the same dreams as her? What had happened to his brother was tragic, of course. Moana could understand that her parents just wanted her and the rest of the village to be safe. She also understood that she had more responsibilities than most, that the well-being of her wonderful village would one day depend on her. Her father and mother expected great things from her. Her people needed her to take care of them and lead them. She did not want to ever disappoint them. And yet... Shh. Moana tuned in to the sound of the waves lapping up on shore. She closed her eyes. If she was honest with herself, it was her favorite sound in the world. She took a deep breath, inhaling the salty air. No matter what she did or where she turned, the ocean always lay in front of her. It was the only place where she felt like herself, like the person she was meant to be. Maybe her father had been right. Maybe she had suggested going beyond the reef because there was a place in her that just wanted to be out in the ocean. She opened her eyes, looking out to the horizon, the limitless possibilities that lay out there, including the possibility of a solution to the village's problem. She stood, almost unbidden. Her feet took her farther down the shore. Some fishermen were clustered near their boats, shaking their heads and muttering over their empty nets. Someone should go check, at the very least, to see if there were more fish beyond the reef. And why couldn't that someone be her? Why couldn't she do both? Settle the restlessness in her heart and help her people. Boom went the waves, curling against the reef more insistently now. The crash of the ocean called, its song tugging on her heart harder than ever. Would she ever be happy if she never learned for herself how far the horizon went? As the fishermen tromped back to the village empty-handed, the wind whipped Moana's hair, practically pushing her toward their abandoned boats. She could picture herself aboard one of them, the wind filling the sail and carrying her across the ocean to faraway places full of wonder and adventure. Something tapped her calf, and she looked down to see Pooh holding another one of the fisherman's oars in his mouth, offering it to her. A grin broke across her face, and she patted him on the head as she took the oar from him. Picking out a boat, Pooh leapt aboard. Moana dug her heels into the soft sand to push the hull into the water. The surf slapped against the bow in a friendly greeting. "What took you so long?" it seemed to ask, ebbing around Moana's legs next. She guided the boat deeper, then pushed off, her toes kicking silt into the water as she jumped up on the bow. "Whoa," she blurted, the boat wobbling beneath her weight as she crouched inside. Pooh snorted and looked at her, his big eyes asking what to do next. Carefully, she made her way to the center, Pooh scrambling along behind her. Moana lifted her oar and thrust it over the side. At first, the boat glided smoothly as she paddled out to the rocks. But then the waves began to get larger, and it was harder to steer straight. "There's more fish beyond the reef," she told herself and Pooh as she plunged the oar deeper into the water. "There's more beyond the reef." She tugged on the rope to open the sail, and the cloth rippled in the wind, flapping noisily like the smacking of the slap dancers back in the village. Letting out a tiny squeal of alarm, Pooh eyed the sail nervously, but Moana gave him a quick smile. A giant wave rushed toward them, and Moana angled the boat to meet it. Up, up, up went the bow, over the top of the wave. "Yes," Moana cried. "Not so bad." Beneath the water, a line of silver flashed as a fish darted past. Maybe she was right. Maybe she would find all the fish they could possibly need just beyond the reef. Suddenly, the wind shifted, and the boom swung hard, nearly knocking her into the water. Moana ducked to avoid it, but while her attention was on the sail, an even bigger wave crashed toward her, the water sloshing over the hull and almost tipping the whole boat over. Yanking on the sail and digging in her oar as hard as she could, Moana was able to keep the canoe afloat. But as the spray cleared from her eyes, she realized Pooh was not next to her. Quickly she spun and saw Pooh's head just clearing the surface of the water, his front legs thrashing desperately, but his heavier lower half starting to pull him down. "Pooh!" she cried. Abandoning the attempt to control the sail, she frantically paddled toward her friend. Splash! Another wave, more powerful even than the first two, lashed the canoe. Arms flailing, Moana fell into the water, where sound was muffled for a moment. The ocean rolled her way, this and that, but she could see Pooh's rump starting to sink. With a tremendous kick, Moana swam to him and wrapped her arm around his body, propping his head up on her shoulder. She hauled him over to the canoe and hefted him up onto the outrigger. Just as she was about to climb aboard, another wave slammed into the boat, and she was shoved under water again. She sank down, unable to get her bearings as wave after wave crashed into her. Sharp coral scraped against her, and her foot snagged in a crevice. Moana winced in pain, reaching down to try and free herself. The rocks were tight around her ankle, trapping her no matter how she twisted. Her lungs squeezed in agony. She was running out of air. "This is not good," she thought. Black dots appeared in front of her. "I need to keep going." A few moments more, and all would be lost.